Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again. I am here today to review The People Under the Stairs. This is my last movie for the theme that I was trying to do. Fortunately, that whole deal with the house is over with because of that meeting with the medium, which I will be having another meeting with her this Friday. And she said that the process of getting through this stuff will take months possibly. And so I intend to stay for the long haul. I intend to keep on finding out more and not just being satisfied with okay, whatever, because, anyways, you guys don't care about that. And this movie, I really like this movie. I used to really like this movie. I saw this a couple of times as a kid, and I thought, this is pretty good. It's got great actors doing great jobs in their parts. It's got a great spooky, creepy atmosphere in this creepy house, and it's got some good violence, and then it's kind of like a satisfying ending because he ends up the main character. Well, so anyways, I should just go through the story just quickly, and then after that I'll get into specifics of what I liked and didn't like, because this movie, it's just such a mixed bag. It's really, I can't believe it. I was so excited to watch this movie. I was so yeah, I'm gonna watch People Under the Stairs. I'm really excited. And then I watched it and I'm like, oh God, this movie is not very good. It is not like how I remembered as a kid liking the movie. I don't know why I liked this movie as a kid. I don't know. What happened was, before I even saw this movie, I can't remember what movie it was, but there was this very, very creepy and scary and cool ad. And it was like a trailer for a studio or something. And it had a bunch of clips from horror movies and darker movies. So it had a clip from Play Misty for Me. It had a clip from Cape Fear. It had a clip from Child's Play 2. And it had a clip from this. And it had a clip from something else. I can't remember. And it was just this really creepy trailer. And it made me so curious about these movies. They look so scary. And they look so much like, oh God, those look really intense and terrifying, and I don't want to watch any of those because they look so scary. I was imagining all these things that would happen that were scarier than what actually happened. And so obviously, one by one, I ended up seeing all those films. And this one, it's all about this kid named Fool. And of course, he's based off of the tarot card Fool, which fools, they go on adventures and stuff. That's pretty much what I get from this movie. It's the Fool card means you go on an adventure, which I got the Fool card. I had a tarot reading in 2020, and I got the Fool card. And so that was pretty funny. I was like, oh, I'm like the People Under the Stairs. And so this kid's turning 13. And that's another sign. And what's happening is that he's not only getting evicted, which they're basically these shitty ass evil landlords, these racist landlords, they're evicting everyone in these buildings, finding any excuses they can, so that then they can tear the buildings down and build on top developments. Sound familiar? And that's why I thought this movie would be a good idea, because I thought, I'd be really positive and exciting. And then at the same time, his mom has cancer, and she can't afford to get it taken out. And he's got a hot older sister named Ruby. And Ruby has a boyfriend played by Ving Rhames. And he's like a typical stereotype, like, like a gangsta thug, whatever. Like, he's a stereotype. He's a lighthearted, like, kind of stereotype. And he's abusive as well. And does this sound fun? Believe me, it's not as dark as it sounds. Like, it's not as, like, it's very light. It's almost like a cartoon. In fact, this movie reminds me a lot of, like, Tales from the Dark Side, mostly. Like, that's what this could have been, Tales from the Dark Side story. And so what he does is he offers to take Fool along with this other guy to the house of the landlords so that they can steal from the landlords to stay there, to pay off all their rent forever, and then also take care of the mom's cancer. That is the main plot of the movie. And then they go to the house, and the plan does not go as expected. They go into the house, and the landlords are even worse than they could have ever imagined. And there's all these sorts of problems and creatures and things and scary situations. It's a very great concept. Like, this concept is awesome. It is really creative. It's really fun. It's really a chance. These are great movies where people go into a place, they're not expecting what's going to happen, and they go in there, they all get fucked up. It's a very fun premise because it happens all the time. Like, there was this one place in Colorado, and did I just do an accent? Colorado. We were on our way home. I was watching a Chucky movie in the car. I think it was, let's see, can I remember? Bride of Chucky it was, which was a favorite film to watch because it involved a road trip as well. I'd always watch, like, Bride of Chucky, Superbad, other movies on road trips. And we found this weird place with this guy who literally looked like Ed Gein. And he looked like Ed Gein meets Don Knotts. And he had this place. It was a weird, I don't know what it was. Like, I guess it was just like a museum or something. It was really creepy. It had this old well in the front of the building. And the well had all these, like, bugs and things that were, like, all over there, like, just swarming there, just piled up, like, these cicadas and things. It was really gross. They were flying all around if you got near them. And then you go inside, and it's this, like, dark, creepy, like, there's hardly any light at all. And it's like, oh God, this is like some place where you make snuff films or some shit. Like, like, it's that fucking creepy. And he was a hoarder, and he had all the stuff, all these different, like, just everything you could ever think of ever. Like, that's how bad this guy was in terms of how much of a hoarder he was. And my mom, she even wanted to buy something. He's like, no, you're not buying that. No, sorry. Like, he would not sell anything. He's that much of a fucking hoarder. I mean, I gotta be honest, I got a lot of stuff to sort through. I wouldn't be opposed to, like, selling some stuff. Like, I was so 100% ready to sell my Bates Motel knife to fund my first film. Like, I was so ready to sell that. I am ready to sell it. It is listed if you guys want to purchase it. It's from the series finale, and it's awesome. It's an awesome knife. It would probably make a great knife, like a great, I don't know, like a bread knife. It's sort of got like a Christmassy vibe to it to me. But anyways, This place was creepy. Like, it had rooms and rooms, and there was this back room with all these shelves and these like creepy, it looked almost like a shed, the whole place. And then there was like supposedly another room where there were these random cowboys playing cards. And you guys see how creepy this is? And like, I didn't even want to go in there. Like, I was like, why do we have to go in this place? And I go in the back, and I'm just wandering around there, hoping that, like, I'm not going to get snatched up by a fucking, I don't know, I don't know. Like, I mean, it was so creepy. And then I saw some weird things. I saw some jars with formaldehyde and two-headed calves, two-headed pigs, like some, I don't even know what they were. Like these, it was creepy. It was like American Horror Story meets Ed Gein. And then at the very back, I put my hand on something furry. And I leap back, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And it's this statue. It's a taxidermy statue of a two-headed or three-headed cow. And it's like, oh, I got the fuck out of there really quickly. And then, thankfully, we left. That place was creepy. And, you know, that's, people do that all the time, though. Like, haven't you guys ever done that before? You go somewhere, you go inside, and you're like, oh, I should have never gone in here. That's what this movie is. And it's a great setup. It's a very good, creative setup, and you want these characters to succeed. Even though they're bad guys, they're a couple of thieves, you want them to get the money and to work all this crap out. And you don't like these landlords because you already see they're abusive. They have this daughter, and they're very abusive, and they're creepy. I mean, that's the one thing. Okay, let's talk about the good. The actors, I would say that Ving Rhames was my favorite character. He was a great, funny character, and I really wanted him to be around for the whole movie, honestly. I thought that he was, like, the greatest. Like, he was so funny. Like, that line with the, you know, when your 13th birthday is already unlucky, you're too old to get tit, and you're too young to get ass. Like, that is just a hilarious line, and it's such a great line. That's one of my favorite, like, Wes Craven lines of all time. Seriously, that's just amazing. That was a stroke of genius line. And he's just very, very good. He seems pretty smart, although he makes mistakes. And I gotta be honest, like, I really wish that maybe Ruby would have gotten killed, and then Ving Rhames would have become his dad or something, and he would have changed and become a better person. Like, that's probably what I would have written, honestly. I think that his character was just too good to kill off. Even though the scene where he gets killed off is really terrifying. Like, he just steps out into the hallway, all of a sudden they play this music that's like The Shining, and he just gets shot over and over and over and over again with the spotlight on him. It is so creepy and terrifying, and it just comes out of nowhere. And there are so many great moments like that I really wish the movie would have been like that. This movie, it was goofy, light, and queer. And I mean queer in terms of it was just not taken seriously, this concept. It was treated like a joke. It was treated like a cartoon, and I really didn't like that. But anyways, I love the Ving Rhames character. I love the parents. The landlords, the Robisons, or the Robisons, because they're actually thieves as well. And we find that out later in the film with this stupid backstory. They are fantastic. They are some of the greatest horror movie villains I've ever seen. Even though they have some stuff where they kind of ruin them a little bit at certain points, they are fantastic. I mean, it's Ed and Norma from Twin Peaks. This is actually where I first saw them. I did not see Twin Peaks. I saw this first. And they're so good together. They're a perfect couple. And they're both scary in their own ways. And they're just so amazing. Like, I genuinely think that the mom, she deserved like an Oscar nomination for playing this part. She was scary as hell. I was really scared of her as a kid. I would never have wanted to go into this house ever. That's how scary this was. And then other things, the music in this movie is phenomenal for the most part. There are a couple of songs where goofy things happen and they kind of play this like and it's like this like weird like 80s type of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it sounds like it would be more fitting in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie than this movie. But then they have this music that's like, it's like pure dread, and it is straight out of The Shining. And it is so good. It feels like this could have been the music for a Shining sequel. You know, a proper Shining sequel, not that Dr. Sleep bullshit movie. The music in this movie was just so effective. Like at the end where you have the final confrontation between the mom and her fake daughter. The music just kicks up a notch and is so good. It makes the movie watchable. The music is that good. It is that like scary and just unnerving and thrilling at the same time. I really love the music for this movie. I think that the music is probably the best part of the whole film. Like, there were so many moments where I was like, yeah, this music really, really amps things up in an otherwise dull and shitty film. Some of the violence is good. Like, there's this part where you see this kid Roach, and he has his tongue cut out, and well, he had his tongue cut out years ago, and you see like this gross tongue cut up, ugh, and then the actual people under the stairs, they look very cool. They kind of remind me of the zombies in Welcome to Dead House, except the effects, Welcome to Dead House is Goosebumps, by the way, if you guys don't know. But the effects are like much more thicker. Like, you can tell that like this is not just gray face paint like in Welcome to Dead House. It's like they have full-on prosthetics, and they look great. They look like really good zombies. Like, this movie had so much potential, but it was just trash. I mean, the main kid, Fool. One of the problems was that Fool felt like nothing bad could happen to Fool. It felt like he could get into all these bad situations. He could just run through the walls. He could run through this place. He could run through these tiny places. It didn't really feel like he was ever in any danger. It always felt like there was always something around him that would take the brunt of abuse for him. And one of those things, I mean, one of those people was Alice. And Alice was okay. You know, I liked the idea of her character. And she had some good moments. But she was also a character where it felt like, okay, for sure the kids aren't going to die. None of these kids are going to die. Like, they make sure that you know that I think they've killed kids before. That's the thing, is that as the movie goes on, and they have all these, it's like they opened up a Pandora's box. Excuse me, sorry. And the backstory that they come up with, it doesn't really mesh, it doesn't really work. It's a very flawed and confused backstory, And I think that that's like a recurring problem in Wes Craven films, is that he has these really grand ideas, and then when he gets into the weeds of things, he gets too confused, and he gets too muddled up with all of his different storylines and things, and characters, and having all these like side characters who gotta have their moments too. He has a problem with doing too much when he doesn't need to. Because at the core of this movie, it should have been, you have a house, creepy house, you gotta survive in this house with these maniacs. That's it. That's all you need. You don't even need anything else. But still, somehow he makes it so complicated that it's like, it kind of gives you a headache by the end of the movie. Like, there's this weird story where, like, the landlords were, like, it's a funeral home, and they stole babies from their tenants, and it just, none of it makes any sense whatsoever. It's just very confusing and just really not worth it. And at the same time, the movie gets to a point where after Ving Rhames gets killed, which to me that's the downfall of the movie. I think up to that point the movie's pretty good. You know, they have all these points where the robbers are trying to get into the house and they just can't like get in there, and then this other guy goes in there and they never see him again, and then they see him, he's dead in the house, and they have to like break in. They just have to break in, no other choice. And they're walking around and doing all this stuff and finding out what's in there and everything. And once it gets to that point of where Ving Rhames dies, though, the movie just completely falls apart. It just becomes so childish and dull and goofy and overly comedic. They have the guy landlord, he's running around in a gimp costume like the Riddler in the Batman movie from this year. And then the wife, she's just like yelling at Alice over and over again, and she's kind of like just yelling and screaming, but she is scary, so it's effective. And of course we do see Alice, you know, she's definitely abused. I mean, it gets really dark at certain points, but it just doesn't fit. Like the conflicting tones are a big problem. Like, you have these points where it's really dark and you see Alice, she's forced to go into a bathtub with like steaming hot boiling water, and you know, that's a torture technique. That's a technique that was used on serial killers. Like, if you look up the Toolbox Killers, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris, one or both of them, they had boiling water poured on their genitals by their abusive foster parents. And so, it's very, very dark. And then you have these other parts where it's like, oh, look, Fool organized it to where the dog slides down the chute and lands in the kitchen, and oh, isn't that funny? Ha 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 ha! It's like a comedy. It's like a Three Stooges type of thing. And then you have the people under the stairs, and you have Roach, and I'm not kidding, guys. The entire movie, they're hardly a part of the plot in any way, shape, or form. They might as well. This movie should be called The Plot Devices Under the Stairs, because that's literally all they are. They tell Fool how to get to the gold at the end. They come out and they save characters at the end at important moments. They're really just there as like plot convenience devices. Like, they're just really not characters at all. They're zombies. I mean, they're just poorly written. And the whole movie, you hear this like, like, you hear that in the walls, and you hear like Roach, and he's like, "Oh no, I was just getting confused. Oh no, and it's like, is this supposed to be scary? Is this supposed to be? It's just weird. And there's this part where the dad takes the fool in the basement, and he's like cannibalizing Ving Rhames, and then he grabs like an organ and throws it to the people under the stairs, and the people under the stairs are like, "Ooh, you go, yeah." You know, it's like, this is not good. This is not as good as it could be. This is trash. This is straight up trash. And by the end of the movie, it's like they kind of keep on repeating things over and over again too. Of like, the dad shoots the walls, and people run around, and you have these piercing lights that Wes Craven likes to use with like these lights that just like pierce you from like open spaces. I don't know, and I know that sounds funny, but like, I noticed that in his films. It's like a lighting technique he likes to use in these horror films. Instead of using like shadows, he likes to use like extreme lights that just shine in and pierce you like the sunlight is stabbing you. And oh yeah, I think actually my favorite part of the movie is the dog. Because the dog, he is a cannibal dog. At one point, the mom starts feeding him a human hand. Unfortunately, that's treated like a joke, as most of the stuff in this movie. And that's the main problem with this movie, is that it does the MCU thing, where you think something is serious, and then they're like, "Ha ha 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 ha! This isn't serious, you dipshit! It's a fucking comedy! It's a horror comedy! Ha 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 ha!" You know, they ruin it. They just completely ruin the stakes and the real horror and the dark moments. They ruin it. And they undercut it with their stupid comedy. And the dog, though, you know, dogs are not inherently bad. And this dog, he is a very brutal, like, he is a savage dog. They've trained him to be a killing machine. And somehow he is like the best character in the whole movie. Like, he's basically the one doing most of the work the entire film, until he eventually gets killed by Fool. And that's something to say, is that I really thought that the dog's death was the saddest part of the film. And I would say after that, I didn't really root for Fool at all. I didn't root for anyone except for like, oh, you guys killed that dog for no reason. Like, that dog didn't do anything. He was forced to do this stuff. And so I really didn't like that. And then they treated it as like a joke. And the dad's like, "I didn't mean to do it." And there was a funny part, though, with the dog where the dog kept on barking. And the dad just says, "Shut the fuck up." And the dog actually shuts up, and it's funny, but just, ugh. I really wish, you know, they and the reason why I'm having such an emphasis on the dog, and the reason why the movie has such an emphasis, is because at the beginning of the movie, you see the Fool's tarot card, and he has a dog next to him, and it's a white dog, and it's supposed to be his companion, and unfortunately, they kind of tried to subvert your expectations. And the way that they did that was they made the dog dark. So they made it like he's got black, and he's got some shades of like brown around his face and neck. And so he's not a white dog, and he's not good, he's evil, quote unquote, because, you know, his owners trained him to be evil. He's not evil because he's an evil dog. Those things don't exist. And then you have Alice, and she's always dressed in white. And so, oh, Alice is the dog. I mean, that's literally the message. Like, Alice, the little girl, she's the dog. A female dog, so that means she's a bitch. Well, I didn't think she was a bitch, but you guys know what I mean. Like, I thought that was stupid. They could have had the dog turn good. They could have had it to where the dog was getting sick and tired or being abused, just like everyone else in the movie, and he could have stood up to the landlord along with everyone else. And that's sort of like the downfall of this movie as well, is that as the movie goes on, you realize that the movie is another one of those pretentious message movies. And you realize that, like, oh, this house is like representative of something, and all the different characters represent certain things, and it's like, ugh, this is Wes Craven. You're smart, but sometimes you just gotta dial it back and realize you're making a movie. You're making a movie. And in order to make a movie, you gotta have a good story. In order to have a good story, you need to stop thinking about this messaging thing where it's like, the message is not always important. And that is a problem with movies nowadays, is that they prioritize the message. Like you see with that new movie, Bros. What did they do with that movie? Did they advertise that it's funny? Did they advertise that the acting is great from one person or the other? No. They just say, this is a queer movie. This is a gay movie. That's all they do. And then they're disappointed when it fails at the box office. Why? Because they prioritize the message over saying this is a good movie and over making a good movie. And I don't really have any interest anyway because I don't know any of those actors. I don't really care. It just doesn't pop. It just doesn't pop out. It's a very niche movie to begin with because it's a romantic comedy, and romantic comedies are like that's like one of the worst genres in history, next to like fucking musicals and shit. And that's just a bit of a tangent because, I don't really have any show where I talk about movie news, but that was pretty funny. It failed at the box office, and they made it even worse because then the main guy who made the movie and starred in it, he went on this temper tantrum where he said, straight people didn't come out to support the gay movie. And it's like, oh, wow, that's really going to make people go see it, blaming the audience and calling them bad for not seeing your shitty film. In this movie, I gotta be honest, I didn't like it very much at all. I think that this is... I don't know anymore. Like, I love certain elements of the movie, but I don't like it overall. It's a very underwhelming, bizarre mishmash of good ideas and bad ideas. It reminds me a lot of My Soul to Take, although it is better than My Soul to Take, obviously. But he always has the same problems in his films. And it makes me wonder with certain filmmakers, like, why don't they ever see their flaws and try to improve? Like, why don't they ever, instead of focusing on, like, oh no, I need to make a movie about a kid, because that's what it seemed like with this movie. It seemed like, Wes Craven, he thought he could be really cool by making a horror movie starring a little kid. Instead of thinking about that, he should have thought about, in that other movie, my main problems were this, this, and this. And they're consistent with other movies where the problems were this, this, and this. And so I should try to fix these glaring issues that always stick out in my films. Even though I don't think that they're much of an issue, other people do, and other people pay to see my movie, and so I should try to fix them. Instead, he didn't really do that. He made this very weird mishmash, and at the end of the movie, oh God, the movie ends on the most cornball note possible. You have these people under the stairs. They are basically all these babies that the landlord stole. and they turned out to be disappointment children. So they got put underneath the stairs, locked up. They're forced to eat human meat, I guess. It's really weird because, like, they feed them food, supposedly, is what Alice said, but if they eat normal food, why would they also have to eat the human meat? Why would they want to? And then they had, speaking of more similarities to that shitty Batman movie, aka The Twilight Man, they had another part with dynamite where the dad stands right in front of dynamite and he literally just gets blown back as his death. Like, he doesn't explode into pieces or anything. He literally just gets thrown to a wall and then he dies. Like, but the people under the stairs, you guys can tell I don't like this movie, right? Like, you guys can tell I'm just so frustrated right now. It's so trash. The people under the stairs break free. They're sick and tired of the abuse. They go upstairs and they all kill the evil mother. And that is one of the best parts of the film because the mom is ready to kill Alice. And it is a pretty intense sequence because Alice, she is a very vulnerable person. And the mom, she's just so vicious and cruel. And I really like that part, kinda, until they kind of ruined it a little bit, of course, with the comedy. They had the mom start just completely overacting when she's trying to kill her daughter. They ruined it. And they kept on doing that. And after the people under the stairs kill them, after all the bad guys are dead, they all escape and leave the house once and for all. It's really weird because the money from this vault, they have all this money and all this gold, which is supposed to be like a message of like people in the U.S., like, you know, the small amount of rich people control all the money. Like, that's the message for this film, kinda. And so they have, like, all this money that just gets blown up, and it flies out of the house onto the street through the chimney. And all the people from the ghetto start grasping for the money. And it's just so bizarre because you know that when the police get there, they're going to force all these people to give the money back because it's evidence. You know, they would consider that probably evidence in a crime. And so it's pretty retarded. And like, this money is just flying everywhere like confetti. And it looks like a block party that they're having. It's so over the top and comedic on purpose. And then one of the people under the stairs walks out and he looks really happy and they're playing this hip-hop rap music. I don't know what it is. It's this cornball 90s music and he's just looking around like, oh, I'm free, ooh. And he starts going like, ooh, I'm not kidding. I'm just doing impressions of the movie. And then the movie ends and they're playing that cornball music into the credits. And it's like, you guys just fucked yourself. You just fucked yourself real good. You took what could have been one of the scariest horror movies of all times and you made it into a joke. This isn't like Beetlejuice, where Beetlejuice was meant to be comedic. It was meant to be, a movie for everyone with dark elements. This is a movie that should have been, it was rated R. I mean, it should have been a dark R-rated movie. It shouldn't have been a cornball comedy that, honestly, I don't know if I will watch this movie very many times again. I don't know. I don't think so. Like, maybe once in a while I watch this movie, but not really. Not really. And of course, I do like all the actors. I mean, I know a lot of them go to horror conventions. I'd love to meet them all. You know, it has nothing to do with the actors. It never has anything to do with the actors unless I mention it. Okay? That's something to know with me, is that I will mention if an actor is trash. I do it all the time. You guys know I'm savage. I'm hardcore. I don't restrain myself at all with what I say. And so, believe me, none of the actors in this movie are bad. It's the writing, it's the direction, it's all that stuff that's bad. So, in terms of food, I have to, and guys, like, Safi just gets to sit around and watch, like, TV show episodes. Okay, she has to review a movie for tomorrow, which is pretty funny. I gotta come up with, like, these new food reviews every day. Like, it's so tough come up with a food review for this movie when it's just like, ugh, this movie, it's not very good. And I have to think, like, what is something where there's elements that are good, but the overall dish isn't good? I would probably have to say, not Burger King. Okay. Sonic. Sonic, when you go there was this one time I went there, and I've gotten a lot into statistics and probability in terms of, like, with YouTube videos. The reason why I make videos every day is because, number one, it's good for the algorithm, and number two, it gives you more chances of having a successful video. If you just make a video once in a while, your channel sucks. It's going to be dead unless you have some sort of a formula and you have some sort of a way to hack into the algorithm. Your channel's not going to be very successful. And I do the same thing with food sometimes, to where I'll get 2 entrees, and then if one's bad, I'll eat the other one. And one time when I was a kid, in particular, I think that the hotel breakfast was not very good. So I was really hungry, and I got a chili cheese dog and a hamburger and fries and a shitty drink. Which that's the thing too, is that Sonic. Wait, no, not Sonic. The Dairy Queen. Sorry, everyone, I forgot. It's been a long time. You know, this happened when I was like 12 or 14 or something. Right around where this kid was aged at in the movie. That's pretty funny. They have shitty drinks at Dairy Queen. You know, like, what do you get? You get, like, a soda. Soda's trash for the most part. Like, I prefer Zevia now completely. Like, Zevia tastes exactly like soda, but it doesn't have any calories, so it's so much better. But at Dairy Queen, I got a chili cheese dog, a hamburger, and a root beer, I think, and fries. And what happened, unfortunately, was that the hamburger was so gross, it looked like, it looked like the brain from Little Monsters. Remember that part where that guy tears off his face and you see that, like, or you see the brain in the back? Like, that's what this burger looked like. It was so gross looking. It looked like it wasn't fully cooked. It was all gray. And I had a nightmare once last year about, like, gray pink meat. It was really weird and creepy, and I wanted to make it into, like, a short film. But anyways, I did not eat that hamburger. I was like, oh, I was excited about eating a Dairy Queen hamburger. And then I go over to the chili cheese dog, and that was fine. And I realized I should have gotten 2 chili cheese dogs. I shouldn't have gotten a hamburger. And then the fries were not very good. The soda was not very good. I should have gotten, like, a shake or something. And so That's what this movie is that, like, all the elements are conflicting with each other. Like, you can't have this serious stuff happen and then you have this comedy, because then people aren't going to take the serious moments serious. You know, they're going to laugh at them and be like, "Oh, I don't really have to worry. It's a comedy." So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought about this movie. I already know a certain commenter is going to come on here, and he's and he is going to say, and I bet you guys, I will be willing to bet money on you guys that this will happen. He's going to comment on this video, and he's going to say, the burglars got in trouble in the house with the landlords because they were having too much fun. And if you guys don't know what that quote is from, it is a hilarious meme-worthy quote from Better Call Saul in their shitty final season. Their shitty-ass character, Kim, she says, "I was having too much fun." And it's treated as like a serious line. And it's just so dumb. And it's so goofy and hilarious. And it's like, and that's another thing too. Sometimes you can take yourself too seriously. And that's bad as well. That's a whole different beast. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more fun reviews. Goodbye, everyone.